So not that long ago, I had thrown a mini spool in the front of this. It was a cheap experiment, and it worked okay. It didn't work that great for what I needed it for. I thought it'd work a little better, especially with hydro assist steer. Problem is if you're going straight, if you were sand dragging or mud racing or anything where you're going straight most of the time, it would work really good. But for trail riding and manipulating in tight corners, it didn't work well at all, even with hydro assist. It only cost me $50, and it was an experiment worth doing. So I decided to step it up. I bought a Spartan Locker. It's a Lunchbox style. So we'll get this thrown in, get all that taken apart. I've got a few other things going on. I'm going to take care of broken spring pin, bent spring, and I got to bleed out the hydro assist. So I'll get all that done at the same time. We'll get it tore apart and get that thrown in. All right, and I have a little roll pin in here I need to knock out to get that pin out. All right, now I can pull that pin out. Maybe, here we go. Rotate that. There's that mini spool. Now, clean this up a little bit and we'll put in my Spartan. The last one of these I got actually came with an instruction book. This one actually comes with a QR code for the install instructions. It's pretty straightforward. Got a new pin, right on. All right. Okay, so I'm setting out these center locks, getting the hardware out. Put a spring inside of these little lock pieces and drop them in there. Go. I'm going to do one of those in each one of these holes. There. So each one of these pins has a groove right here. That groove is for locking these down. So you take one of these pins, you push it down all the way. And don't pull those out until you get it together. That stuff will go flying. Oops. There. Now those are set to go together. I'll drop that in there. And we'll put one of these in. Driver and lock it. Set that in there. I'll lock it. I'm going to put that in there. Put that in there. Goes in like that. There, that'll lock now. Okay. And then with that in there, I should be able to pull all my pins. My pliers. Okay. Now we can rotate this into a lock position. Spin that around, line it up. Well, goes in just like that. I didn't think that was going to go in. I'm just kidding. Goes in like that. Then we'll knock that down. There. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So 60 foot-pounds. Just going to go back and forth here in a star pattern. Okay, at this point, I'm ready to throw it back in, and we'll get to some of those other problems I have. I got it all jacked up, blocked up, ready to go. But I'll get these springs pulled out, pull those pins. Well, this pin's already broke, so that'll fall right out. But I'll get this spring out so I can get that one, and then spring on the other side and get that out. And then I can get these ready to go. I just got to throw ends in these and throw them in. All right, before I pull this apart, I want to measure it. It's like 7 5/8. So I mentioned earlier, I'm going to reuse this. It's just a 0 rate spring, mainly just a spacer, but it needs to be clamped into my spring pack. So it will be part of the pack, which makes it a little better. But anyhow, I don't know, this had to have gotten bent, or this one got bent, the other one had to have gotten bent, but I'm curious to see how much taller that other spring pack's going to be. And there will be one more spring in there, actually 2 more springs in that pack. These were really soft, really nice, but obviously they were too soft. And I noticed in some of the videos when I was breaking over a hill, the springs had to have been collapsed. So that tells me it was too light. So I wanted to add one more, and I thought I'll add one more and then one more short spring on top of that. That one mainly should just hold it together. Shouldn't be too much spring on it. So anyhow, that's my hopes. So I'll get this one tore apart. And I brought a pair of ice grips I knew I was going to need. These haven't been on here that long, so they should come apart easier. Well, I could be mistaken. Well, I was thinking, crying out loud, it should be apart. Okay, so all I really wanted out of this was that. So I ordered these, and these are supposed to be grade 5 or better, maybe a grade 8, I can't remember now. But I definitely wanted to get a heavier grade of pin so that it didn't break off again. I'm pretty sure I was coming downhill braking and when I was coming off a waterfall, and I kind of think that's where it broke when I was on the compressor trail. I think that was just too much force, and it looked like those U-bolts were a little loose, so it was probably sliding back and forth, so it just sheared it. But this should take care of that. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on here. You ever get a new jug of anti-seize and you pull that out and it's got this huge glob on the end and it's way too much and you get it all over? I decided I was going to put some in this little can so that I don't get more than I need everywhere. Like on my face. Look like the Tin Man. Now these pins are obviously way too long. I'm going to have to get me a deep socket and a cutoff wheel, and I'll run that down as far as I can, cut it off, and do the same again. Well, that's a whole inch. That's 8 5/8 exactly. Okay, I feel good about that. So I'll get the other one thrown together here. Oh, I'll put my bushings in too, dang it. The other day I was looking at this, just kind of prepping for doing this repair, and I noticed that these U-bolts had backed off. Some of that could be just because it was moving around, but it could have been loose enough that it allowed it to move enough to shear that bolt. So when I put this together, obviously I'll torque it, and I'll retorque it again after I go out my first time. I forgot to retorque that after doing all that work, and that may have contributed to that. I don't know if you can see that. That's the ratchet strap I had to put on just to get it out to the trailer so we can get it loaded up. It was walking back and forth. I think that's how this dent here happened. I think it coming down the compressor trail off the waterfall. I'm thinking that had to have been where it happened, where it probably broke that and shoved that tire back in there. The only thing I can figure. But this will fix that problem. You should always have a ratchet strap or two in your toolbox. That same trail, Jeremy had to put a couple straps on his. He broke an upper control arm trying to pull me. Driveline, something you don't know, or maybe you've noticed, this is the same driveline, we just shortened it. It was only $80 to shorten it. I didn't balance it because it's bent, and I don't know if that would have helped that much. And something else you don't know is I'm kind of a cheapskate, so I didn't want to have a new one built and then turn it around in a year's time, hopefully, my fingers are crossed, I want to put a doubler in my transfer case, and that would mean I'd have to shorten this again, so it'd be $500 for a new driveline, and then go back in and have it shortened and rebalanced on top of that. I'm just not ready for that. This tubing here, I would have just retubed it, but this is the 4.5-inch tube, and I guess it's either really hard to get or they don't make it. I'm not sure exactly, but a lot of driveline shops don't have the 4.5-inch tube anymore to do this, so they're replacing them with the 3.5-inch tubing on the newer style driveline. This one here, they just can't do anything with it really. So I'm just going to run this one for now. I'm sure it's still going to vibrate, and I'm aware of that. But also, shortening this thing up 14 inches only meant 13 and a half out of this. So it just give you a reference to short box conversion. It's going to be about 13 and a half inches, depending on your lift and different things. If you're not lifted, then it might be even different. I'm not 100% sure on how much. But anyhow, I got this ready to throw in. Got my hardware here, so I'm just going to get it in and hope for the best. That looks way better. It's level now. It wasn't level before. This side was, looking at my springs after I pulled them out there, it was at least an inch lower on this side than it was. So, and it's also sitting higher than it should be. When I tightened everything up, I didn't have any weight on that suspension, so it'll settle some. I'll probably settle an inch, and then it'll be right about where I want it. I wanted it a little higher, but not much. I wasn't going after big lift. The taller the rig, the more tippy it is, and I don't want it to be more tippier than it should be. So anyhow, I'm really happy with it. I still got a few other things. I got my hydro steer I need to bleed out. My steering pump, my power steering pump's leaking, so I need to fix that. So I'm not going to do the bleeding of the hydro steer until I get a new pump or pump housing or something. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe just an O-ring. I'm not sure. But I'll get that taken care of. I need to build a spare tire carrier, so I'll probably catch that on my next video. Anyhow, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope the Spartan Locker info was useful or interesting, and anything else, or everything else, hopefully. Anyhow, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much, and we'll catch up with you later. Bye.